Welcome back to The Independence. One group has placed itself at the sharp end of the immigration debate, the Minutemen Project. It's a volunteer group of anti-immigration activists who act as citizens' neighborhood watch police along the U.S.-Mexico border. One of the group's projects, building the missing border fence themselves, is crazy. I traveled to the southernmost tip of California to find out more.
The U.S.-Mexican border is the epicenter of the immigration debate. Often we hear politicians and pundits preaching, we need to build a wall.
We need a border fence. We need the fence completed in Arizona. It's not.
We're adding 350 miles of fencing.
We complete the dang fence. It'll work this time.
But is that really the answer? I say no. The absurdity of the southern border is on display when you go see it for yourself. I went there with Tim Donnelly, a member of the Minutemen and the California State Assemblyman. Donnelly and his group tried to fortify parts of the border.
This was not built by the Border Patrol. This was built by Minutemen. This wasn't here before. This is what we did. We tried to fill in the gaps, and then we came along here and made sure that they stayed uncut. And then when somebody cuts it, you can tell it's been cut.
Bend it back for your buddies.
Sure.
Like, do you want to get under there? You want to go to Mexico? Grab some margaritas?
And he's proud that his activism actually shamed the U.S. government into strengthening parts of the border.
Well, this fencing here is recent. It was built back in 2008. And it's the legacy of the California Minutemen that we embarrassed the federal government into securing this whole area, which used to just have a 3 to 4 foot vehicle barrier. And it made it really difficult for Border Patrol to do their job.
Say I'm deep in the Golden Triangle in Mexico, and I want to come up to the United States. You know, I lost my job. I want to support my family.
You can't have unchecked illegal immigration right next door to a welfare state. Who wouldn't come here if you're going to get free health care and you're desperate and your country has broken down? A job, K through 12 education, now free college tuition, and what's next?
But even now, there are plenty of holes big enough for a person to fit through.
Like a baby. Head and shoulders first. Look, I'm touching Mexico.
And many parts of the fence are short enough for a person to easily climb over.
You could totally get over this.
Yeah.
Perhaps most ridiculous of all, at certain points, I found this.
So here's this big, effective, meaty fence, impervious, unscalable, and then all of a sudden, it just ends.
My toes are technically in the United States, but I'm here really on the border between two countries.
Yeah, you're in no man's land.
If by no man's land you mean Mexico, why yes. A bit arbitrary, gentlemen.
Yeah, that fence has really changed a lot, not just politically, but actively. There was only about an 8-mile fence in San Diego. It was the first kind of wing of the whole thing. But it has since pushed people out into the desert, so we've had hundreds of people die in the desert. It's changed the face of how people smuggle. But we focus so much on the border, like that ridiculous John McCain ad. He totally flip-flopped on that issue so he could try to win the presidency. We talk about the fence. 40% of illegal immigrants, it is estimated in the United States, had nothing to do with the southern border. They're here because they overstayed their visa. You come here on a 6-month tourist visa and you go, all right, I'm going to hang out. You've known people like this. I've known people like this. People in LA all the time are doing this. And so you focus so much on the fence, you forget that actual illegal immigration is a visa question more than it is a human control question. We have spent exponentially more money trying to create this fence, this double fence, as Michelle Bachmann had wanted. It is physically impossible to do that, and it's become this huge government boom.
The border is porous. I mean, it is mountainous, and it's impossible to build a fence over every rock and border and valley.
Well, it sounds like for the most part, when we talk about the fence, it's not really about immigration so much as it is keeping out apparently terrorists who are coming across the southern border. I don't know that we've had a rash of that. I don't think we have. And it's about drug prohibition as well. It's the notion that drug mules are coming across the border. But the fence is porous, not particularly effective. We're spending upwards of $11 billion in 2012 to secure the border. As I understand it, we would need to spend about twice that amount to really secure the border.
But there is no such thing.
But what program will actually get that done? To me, it seems eerily similar to the NSA Dragnet program. Like this notion of trying to build a border across the entire southern border that will finally keep us safe. It's not effective.
Well,
it's not efficient.
It's one of those things that Republicans demand when they talk about amnesty or any sort of immigration reform. They say, okay, first we have to seal the border, and then anyone who's inside the vacuum, they can stay.
It's particularly strange that conservatives are making that appeal, because they seem to understand that government doesn't necessarily get stuff like this right. Another boondoggle?
Even Rand Paul, who's been talking about the necessity of immigration reform, which is politically unpopular, says, well, of course it has to start with securing the southern border. We cannot secure the southern border. And the sooner that we realize that, the sooner that we can actually have that sane conversation about immigration policy that everyone's asking for.
And we're going to need to secure the northern border pretty soon, because a lot of Americans are going to be going to Canada, because that place has gotten awesome. This, however, is not a show about immigration now, is it? Well, coming up next, we'll meet a dreamer who was brought to this country illegally, and now she's hassling lawmakers into changing the rules of the game. She's next.